Hello, I am Mojtaba Rasti from Thales Group. Today is November 1st, 2025. I will analyze Bitcoin with the Thales Market Screener tool. These analyses are for education and information only. If you use them. Hello, I'm Mojtaba Rasti from Thales Group. On November 1st, 2025, I'll analyze Bitcoin with the Thales Market Screener. This is for education only. You are responsible for your trades. And the upward movement that happened eventually reached the shadow of this candlestick, which closed as a doji, going up to 111 and 176. It couldn't reclaim this high for now, and the momentum of this move has actually decreased. You can see that, for now, it is in a range and a period of stagnation. The price increase that started from here, if you look closely, we didn't have an increase in volume. That means this price rise wasn't accompanied by a rise in volume, which is an important point. If we want to find a clue in favor of the continuation of this upward move, it's almost like a triangle has formed here. If we consider this as a flagpole, a flag has formed here. It might possibly indicate an attack or a move to the upside. Of course, today is a holiday, and tomorrow is the same, so we'll probably remain in a state of fluctuation for now. So, at the moment, we are still under the influence of this downward trend, and we haven't reclaimed any particularly important or significant highs yet. Therefore, we can basically say that for now, we are still moving downward in this trend. Let's see what we have from the beginning of November until now. From midnight on November 1st until now, and for tomorrow's expiration, which is November 2nd. Yes, November 2nd. For tomorrow's expiration, according to the raw database, 1,960 Bitcoins have been traded in the form of 1,009 option contracts. The result is this curve. It's a curve that shows there's a possibility of movement in both directions, but the downside is dominant. This curve shows movement possible both ways, but the downside is stronger. You can see it tilts lower. An hour ago, it was nearly balanced, with equal chances up or down. Moving the slider forward, it turns bearish, meaning decline is more likely. Now, let's see how the red curve changes. If we draw a horizontal line, anything below 99,000 is seen as profit. But here, there's quite a gap, which could be considered a volatile area. If we turn on the delta, it can be helpful. You see, right now we're in a zone where the delta has found some stability. There's a difference in slope between here, where the delta has moved, and here, where it's about to move. So, in a way, we're currently in a situation where we're in a resting phase at a bottom, up to 109. From 109 to 106, we have another bottom. So, from where we are now down to 106, puts have been sold, and alongside the price drop, the delta is increasing, which means puts are being sold, and up to 106, a bottom has been seen. If this bottom breaks, you'll see that as the price drops, the delta will turn negative, which actually indicates the buying of puts. We have the 105,000 and 106,000 levels ahead of the price, which can act as support. As we move forward, you can see this downward trend turned into a call selling situation. A call selling where 111,700 and 112,000 are the ceiling. We might see a move up to 112,000, That's possible if we consider this triangle valid. But if we want to be precise, the ceiling for this call selling is 119,000, 117,000, and this shadow has gone up to 113,000. So we can say it's almost been realized. Now we should be looking for the 106,000 floor. If we move forward, you'll see again that the downward trend dominates. The downward trend takes over. Let's move on to the data. It's been processed with a relatively balanced situation. Both sides are high in profit. Let's move forward. Here, from 1230 onwards, it has also turned bearish. It sees below 108,000 as profitable, so we can say the downward direction is the priority for movement, and here too, it's become bearish. Right now, this red candle is showing us something. Now we have to see how long it continues. It's indicating some downward movement. Let's go ahead and draw the zones and update the indicator. You can see the areas of agreement between the buyers and sellers. At the top, it's 110,900 and 111. At the bottom, it's 108,400. Both sides are in profit, and the size of the zones. Both are almost equal at the top, and both are agreement zones, so everything is pretty much balanced. Therefore, based on this chart, we can expect the price to potentially move in either direction. Both are nearly equal at the top and are agreement zones, so things are balanced. This chart shows price could move either way, with no clear dominance. Let's update the indicator. The bands are now very close together. The lower bound of the fluctuation is 108,500, and the upper bound is 110,911, so the probability of fluctuation decreases. Let's update the zones and continue. The zones are updated. The width of the zones is almost equal, with the upper zones slightly wider. Both zones are in profit and are agreement zones, and the fluctuation range has decreased a lot. Movement is possible in both directions. On this red candle, which has a shadow going up toward 110,600, we can even consider our upper zone as somewhat fulfilled, because this candle fits within our analysis time frame. That is, based on the number of trades we've reviewed since midnight, we can say that there was movement in this direction, and now the priority might be to move toward the lower zone, meaning 108,000. So, the middle zone, which is basically the maximum profit and loss area, is from 109 to 109.5. The upper zone is roughly from 110.7 to 111.5, and the lower zone is from 107.9 to about 108.5. So, it's possible for the price to move in either direction, but in our opinion, we're currently close to the upper zone. It seems that the upper area has been reached with this shadow, and most likely, we're expecting a move down, so we'll keep our arrow and wait to see the price direction. We might reach the lower zone by tomorrow. Now, let's check the delta. Let's check out the gamma. Let me just move these aside for a moment. Delta and gamma, well, there isn't much to interpret here. We have a very strong gamma right now, and we're exactly at that level, 109,600 to 109,700, which comes from buying calls and buying puts. Right now, we could see movement in either direction. If we move the slider forward, you'll see the curve looks like this. Call selling, which has a heavy gamma around 118, meaning the market sees a ceiling here. Basically, calls are being sold at this level. We also have a floor at 107,700. There's another conditional gamma here as well. If we move this further forward, it gives us a better view. Like this, for example, where the downward shape of the curve reveals itself, we can say how many gammas we have here. There's one where we're currently standing. There's a long gamma for the taker at 109,700 and a conditional gamma for the maker at 109,700. Right where we are now is an important point. The next point, we have a short gamma for the taker. Right where we are now is an important point. The next point is a short gamma for the taker at 112,200, and then a long gamma for the maker at 112,200. Here, this could be the target for our upward arrow. This long gamma will actually act as a resistance zone. Look, this is a level that was previously broken. This is an important spot, and we have negative gamma here again at 107,000. A small bottom is seen here, and there's also gamma at 104,000. I won't draw all of these. I've marked the two main ones. Here we have a green gamma for the maker at 107,200. These are important points. Let's take a look at the coming days, the upcoming expirations. Well, if we add the 3rd of November, the shape of the curve doesn't really change. Of course, if we remove tomorrow, look, for the 3rd of November, we have a bullish outlook, but the volume is very low, 258 Bitcoin. Well, this weakens our prediction, so this. You should keep in mind that the volume is still low for now, but there is a prevailing bullish outlook. Of course, look at where we are standing. The delta can still decrease along with the price, meaning with a price drop, we could see the delta go down to 104 or 105 as well. So we can still consider movement in that direction. The 4th of November, well, the 4th of November on its own is such a shape for us that suggests a bearish play. But look, you can't really rely too much on things like 98 bid. So just keep an eye on the November week, Friday. You see, during the November week, movement has been seen in both directions. I think up until yesterday when we were reviewing the November week, it was much more decisively bullish. But now you can see both sides. The bearish side, the corrective side, have increased a bit. Our trading volume. The inflow from November 1st is 1,165 Bitcoin. Let's move the slider ahead to see recent trades. If we push it all the way, from 6 o'clock on November 1st, you can see we're at the bottom now, meaning the movement is downward right now for Friday. But again, look, it's 280 Bitcoin. That means after 6 o'clock, 280 Bitcoin has given us this kind of result, showing that we're at the bottom here. It could go up. Look, with 105, that's the middle of this delta. It's the lowest point that's been seen. But at the start, there's an upward movement. So, we can still have a bullish outlook for Friday. So let's take a look at the different expiries. Let's go to the expiry for tomorrow, November 2nd, with 1,960 Bitcoin. Out of these trades, 1,150 Bitcoin have been bought, 494 Bitcoin in call options, and 658 Bitcoin in put options. Clearly, the puts are dominant. The puts are dominant, and anything below 109 is seen as profitable. So, there's a move toward 109 happening, which apparently is heading toward the bottom of this zone. For maximum profit and loss, we can expect a short-term move. Where did the calls want to go, even though their numbers are fewer? The calls are targeting above 110 and 160, which we saw on this red candle. Yes, we saw it on this red candle. It even went up to 110 and 500, so you could say the upper target was achieved. Now, the sellers, who are much fewer, let's see what they're up to. First, let's see what price range the sellers have boxed in. Look, for the lower bound, they've considered 107 or 108, and for the upper bound, it's gone up to 111 and 500. The price reached 110,500, meeting the upper target. Sellers are fewer, with their range between 107,000 to 109,000 below and 111,500 above. Out of 808 Bitcoin, 415 are sell calls and 192 are put sales, with call sales slightly higher. The ceiling is seen at 110,900 and 110,800. Now, focus shifts to the lower side, where put sellers see the floor at 108,500. There is a 1-to-1. As long as the structure of this flag hasn't been broken, we can still expect an attack toward 111,500, more or less. We can't completely rule this out. Alright, let's move on. Let's take a look. Okay, let's go to the process database. These are the process contracts, which are correct as well. Let's see what kind of high-volume trades we have. There probably aren't too many. For trades of 10 Bitcoins or more, we have 35 trades. For 12 Bitcoins, 33 trades. For 15 Bitcoins, 27 trades. And for 20 Bitcoins, 23 trades. We can also check the 21 Bitcoin trades, sure. But as for block strategies, we don't have any. As you can see, if we want to analyze them one by one. First of all, as you can see, our high-volume Bitcoin trades are forming a long strangle, with positions below 108 being seen as puts and above 112 as calls. This is basically showing us some volatility in the range from 108, which is the bottom of this zone, up to 112, which is pretty much the top of our zone. In fact, this is indicating volatility in this market for us, meaning we can expect a move toward a. They're basically suggesting a move in either of these two directions. If we increase the size, let's say to 25, we still see the same pattern. At 30, it's still the same. These are our big trades. As you can see, all of these here are long positions. Pay close attention. All of them are long. And look. If I completely ignore the shorts, I'm not really missing anything because they're all long. Out of this number, out of 330, there are 115 calls and 215 puts. The puts are more than 100 Bitcoins higher. So here too, you can see that in the bigger trades, there's a greater chance of a move to the downside. And where is their target? The strike price they're trading is mostly 180. You can see there's also a 102, but mainly. So 108. Our target could be between 108 and 109, this lower zone. Let's move on to liquidity. Well, over the past 24 hours, the liquidity volume has actually been pretty low. We have liquidity on both sides. The closest liquidity above is at 110,800, which still shows that we could see another move upward toward, look, it's almost. We might touch the bottom of this upper yellow zone and, for example, collect that liquidity. There's even stronger liquidity at 11,800. On the other hand, below, we have liquidity at 18,500. So, this volatility range we talked about is really showing itself well here. So, let's also take a look at the 48-hour chart. Here again, it's becoming even more apparent. The lower liquidity at 18,600 is very prominent. It's showing itself, and the upper liquidity seems greater, but it's scattered, starting from 110. So if we want to sum things up, I think we can stick with the arrow we have here. Most likely, the situation will remain the same, especially since tomorrow is a holiday. We'll probably stay between these two zones until tomorrow, but I think the next move is more likely to be downward, toward the lower zone. If we want to look at a longer time frame, for example, let's take a look at the 3-day chart to see what the liquidity situation is like in that time frame. In other words, if we come down and then bounce back up from there, it would be for the liquidity that's actually up here. If we want to look at a longer time frame, like the 3-day, let's see how the liquidity looks there. As you can see, the upper side still dominates, which shows that now the lower liquidity has gradually accumulated. Let's see, we have a lot. There's not much left on the chart, so let's check the weekly chart to review recent liquidity. Liquidity is concentrated in a specific price range. We have liquidity up to 118,000, and on the lower side, it mainly starts from 107,500. From here, 107,500 to 108,000, and there is very little liquidity at 105,000. For example, around 90,000 or 100,000, it's pretty empty, nothing significant there. It seems the lower side is gradually getting cleared out so we can go up and collect liquidity at the top. Set our outlook for tomorrow based on this scenario, meaning it's more likely that we'll first move down and then, from the lower levels, head upward. This is my own interpretation and the probability I see, but as I mentioned, because of this flag pattern structure, it's also possible that we might go up again and test 111, 211, and 300, and then come back down. But considering the detailed trades, which actually show that apparently both the call buyers and call sellers have to some extent acted on and realized their views, I think in the coming hours, the higher probability is that we'll move downward first and then head toward the upper zone. Thank you for your attention, and I hope this has been helpful.